Alright, so this is the solution to the fifth problem in the grind 75 valid palindrome. So just to refresh, um, we have to determine whether the input string is a palindrome or not. But before we do that, we have to remove anything that's not a letter or a number, and we have to make everything that's uppercase lowercase. So when I was doing this problem, I had the right logic as to how to determine if something was a palindrome or not, but I did not know how to remove anything that was not an alphanumeric character, and that was simply because I just didn't know the method names in Java. But the logic was there. I did make a few other tiny mistakes, which we'll go over. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create an empty string called stripped, and that's how I called it in the previous video. And this is going to be the string that we're going to build from the input string s, which um, could be something like this, for example. And what we're going to do is and we're going to use the Pythonic for loop. We're going to say for char c in s dot to char array. So this is pretty important. This is something that I usually forget. One being that you can just do for element of this type in something that's iterable. I also forget that the to char array can be used on strings. So that's pretty helpful for actually getting the values the way that I was doing it previously, which was to just get integers and then do char at that integer in a string, which I think I would actually prefer this way. So again, to go back to the main purpose of this, we're trying to get everything that is an alphanumeric character out of our input string. So let me actually here, yes. So for char c in the string converted to a char array, we're going to say if c dot is digit or c dot is its letter. If that's the case, then we're going to do stripped plus equals c. So we're going to add that character to our empty string. Okay, and let's see. So that's what I missed there. Another thing that I didn't necessarily miss, but would make it a little simpler, I was sort of concerned here in my Scratch work as to whether or not the input string or the stripped down string was even or odd. But as we can see in a little bit, we can circumvent that by doing less than or equal to. Because if they're even, then the pointers will move on like this, and then the pointers will cross over like that. And at that point, they'll be less than so the condition will be while the front pointer is less than the back pointer, less than or equal to, because in this case, they'll keep going until they both intercept on this middle one, this letter right here, the E. So we're just going to show how this works. So we're going to say, let's see. Yeah, so we have the string. They're going to be integer pointers again. So we're going to say int front pointer is going to be initialized to 0. Int back pointer is going to be initialized to stripped.length, again with the parentheses, because That's how we get the length of strings. And our condition is going to be while the front pointer is less than or equal to the back pointer. Then we're simply going to check if the letters at each respective spot don't match, because if they don't match, then we will want to terminate. So let's see. I think we can just do char at. Yeah. So if strip.char at front pointer does not equal strip.char at back pointer, then we will want to return false. And we will also have to make sure to increment both pointers because we're in a while loop that doesn't increment the pointer for us like a for loop would. So we're going to say front pointer plus equals 1, and we're going to say back pointer minus equals 1, because we have to remember to move the back one to the front and the front one to the back. Okay, and if we get through the entire stripped string without finding any character discrepancies, then we can safely return true, because we know that we have found a palindrome. Okay, and let me just run some examples really quick. I mean, this should work unless there is some error. So let's see. Yes, okay. So, sorry, the way I did this method was incorrect. So we have to call the character class, and then we pass in an actual character. So because we don't do imports, we do the wrapper class character, we call its method, and then we pass in a character. So we're going to say, again, like this, and okay, semicolons. Yeah, that looks about right to me. Let's run the code and see if this works. Runtime error. Okay, so stripped.char at. Let me see what we can do about that. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure I said something about it, but I just forgot. We have to do length minus 1, right? Because the length is outside of the last index of the string, so we have to make sure we want to start on the last and not get an out of bounds exception. But other than that, should be right. So let's see. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I think this should be the last error, but so one thing I did was I switched the plus equals and the minus equals to these. That just makes for more concise code. But the actual error was that I didn't check for, or I didn't make the stripped string lowercase. So I think in the future, what I will do is I sort of did it, but I didn't refer to it when I was writing the code. I will have a note section where I keep track of all the small details that need to be checked off before we run. So I'm going to say stripped is equal to stripped.to lowercase, and I'm going to run really quick, and I believe this should work, and then we can submit, and I think that should also work. Okay, yeah, so that is the solution to valid palindromes.